Alright, it says we're live streaming. I've not ever attempted to do this before, so hopefully everything is working correctly. Go ahead and see if I can see myself. It says receiving your content. Your audience will see it in a moment. Get ready. Well, I'm ready. Let's see here. Your content. Your audience will see it in a moment. Get ready. Oh, yep. Well, I'm ready. Let's see here. Alright. Your content. Your audience. So we're live. Yeah, let me go ahead and post some links up and stuff, I guess. I don't even know how to do this. How do I share? How do I share? The internet can totally see me now. Share. With this one. Oops, set up. Oh, here we go. Yeah, hide it all the way here at the bottom. That's cool. Ask questions on the Discord or on the live chat. Let's see here. I probably should put my Discord button invite. There we go. Copy. Nope. For expire. Generate new link. Copy. Right. Channel. Boom. All right. There we go. Okay. Switch over to here. And Mark Kelson, Jason. Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for joining me. I wish there's a way to pop this out. Oh, pop out chat. Well, that's convenient. All right, there we go. Excuse me. I guess Google has thought of everything. So yeah, guys, welcome. I'm Karnik. Star Wars Armada Explained. Hello. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I think I keep repeating that. But just I had some time after a holiday. I took the day off. By holiday, I mean I took vacation. Um, Camping over the weekend. It rained a lot, but that's all right. Definitely not a myth or a legend. The biggest part of this reason why I'm doing a live stream is I had somebody ask me, "Hey, I just have like lots of questions I want to ask you." I'm like, "Well, you can post them on the Discord." He's like, "But no, I want to ask you in person." I'm like, "All right, I guess I can do something like that." So if you do have like Star Wars Armada related questions, like about list building or rules or what's meta, what's not meta, what's good, not good, or just Star Wars stuff in general, or I mean pretty much anything. I mean, ask me anything, Q&A. I'm not too picky. I'm going to be doing this for about an hour. That's about as much time as I got slotted for because I got to go to family dinner function at some point for an early dinner. I have a twin brother. He wants me to meet the girl that he's been seeing for some time. I haven't met her yet. That is something that I'll be doing later. Um, let's see. Let's pop open some other things. Oh, I should probably post that I'm live streaming. Ask me question, YouTube chat, or on the Discord. Shoot, and then that here. That again. Here. Submit. Shows up like it does. Oakley dokley. Let me see here. Let's go do some fleet builder stuff. I've been meaning to get back into making videos again. Not again. I still am making videos. It's not like I really stopped, but just over the weekend, I was on vacation and I had meant to make videos before I had left, and I totally forgot to do so. But that's all right. I think everyone needs a break occasionally from rules and things. Let's see here. Nothing on the Discord yet. Just make questions. Perfect. Oh, got Gink type in here. What's he gonna say? He's probably gonna say, "Get out of here, scrub. Nobody likes you." Then I'll cry. Say, "Why don't you love me, Gink? Why don't you love me?" You can see here I use Ryan Kingston's. I really like Ryan Kingston's. I also use Warlords, but in terms of like Ryan Kingston's, I use because it just pretty much only has the current wave cards and things on there. So and I use Warlords when I want to build like the new stuff, because typically Warlords updates with the new things first. But Ryan Kingston, I just prefer just how easy drop down. You know, I donated, so I got access to the full thing, which I absolutely recommend. That if you're looking for just quick and easy printouts and setting things up, I prefer Ryan Kingston's as my first choice, and then Warlords Armada as my second choice. Not saying that either or are awful or bad. It all just still comes down to your preference. But that's what I prefer. Boy, he's taking a long time to type that. He's probably got something scathing for me. Let's see here. Can you help clarify how to use Thrawn? He gets 3 dials, and you can use one of those dials on top of your ship dials unless it's the same. Like, can you do a squad dial on a ship and a break and an engineer dial on top of it? Yeah, the chat only allows you to put so many words or 2 words. So, Kelson, I do have a Thrawn video out for Star Wars Armada Explain. I'm going to link it here into the chat for you, just so you have it. But I can answer that question for you. Give me one moment to at least link the video to you here. Where do I have it? That's officers, commanders. Here we go. Oh, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Here we go. I did this with Ian Cross. He is the official world's judge for Star Wars Armada. And the video is, I mean, 45 minutes is a long time to sit through something, but honestly, it will answer so many questions people have about Thrawns. Okay, you did watch it. Well, just for anyone else who may be watching, I'm going to link it just so it's available there. So for Thrawn, to break it down, is that at the start of the ship phase, and Gink is still typing over there. Just so I have the card here in front of my face. Let's see here. And yes, I use the Star Wars Armada wiki just because, boy, everything is just right here and pretty much super easy to find. Grand Admiral Thrawn. So let's read his card. Let me pull open his FAQ stuff. Some due diligence. All right. Perfect. So Grand Admiral Thrawn is after deploying fleets. Place 3 face-down command dials on this card. At the start of each ship phase, you may reveal and discard one of those dials. If you do until the end of the round before each friendly ship activates, it gains 1 additional dial matching that discarded dial. And his FAQ states, when a friendly ship gains a command dial as part of Grand Admiral Thrawn's effect, that ship can only spend that dial to gain a that ship can spend that dial to gain a matching command token. Alright, so your question is, can you use one of those dials on top of your ship's dials unless it's the same? Like, can you do a squad dial on a ship and an engineering dial on top of it? Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what Thrawn does. You cannot execute a command twice, meaning you can't have a squadron command on top of another squadron command and expect to execute both squadron commands as a dial. What I mean by that is that you can't squadron command an ISD2, which has a squad value of 4, command 4 squads, and then try to use the second dial and say, oh, I want to use this 2 and get a squad value of 4 from that. That cannot happen. It specifically states in the rulebook that a command is resolved only by doing a dial, a token, or a dial and token together. So if you were to reveal both of the same command, you must tokenize one of those dials. You have to. If you already have a token of that command already, essentially just take that dial and toss it out the window. Congratulations, you wasted that dial. You couldn't even token it. So you can do a dial or token, or in the case of Thrawn, if you do the double, you tokenize one of those dials, and then you can execute dial token for the command effect. Otherwise, why Thrawn is so good and so useful is, like you have that example, yeah, you could do a squadron command, and then you can do an engineering dial, or probably the 2 most useful commands in this game, navigation and squad command, which is why 2-ship is so drastically effective, is because not only are those ships getting the most beneficial command dial, which is navigation. Navigation is always beneficial because it allows you to maneuver your ship, speed jank, etc. It allows you to control tempo. You can combine that with squadron commands, which squadrons, for their points, are some of the most cost-effective cards that you can use to attack and defend yourself with. So by having both of those together, that's why 2-ship is so effective, because you can get the full dial navigation command, you can get the full dial squadron command, and pretty much just dance around targets and command squads and blow things up. I mean, that's in a nutshell Thrawn. Yeah, so he only gets 3 of them. Obviously, if you're dumb enough to put Thrawn in hyperspace, say you're a second player and you have Thrawn and you have hyperspace assault and your opponent picks that objective, and you put your ship with Thrawn on it in hyperspace, you played yourself. Thrawn can't activate. You don't get Thrawn's effect because, again, you put ships in a hyperspace before you deploy any ships. Thrawn's effect takes place after fleet deployment. But if a ship is in hyperspace, you cannot trigger any cards on that ship. So don't do that. Does that answer your question, Kelson? I hope it does. So essentially, yes, you can resolve one dial and then another dial. If only I could get Ryan to play. Yeah, I don't know if he really plays or not anymore. So you don't see why navigation is beneficial. Can you explain why people say it is? Yeah, so to break that down a little bit further of why I say navigation, and a lot of people say navigation is the best command, because you can command squadrons, and squadron command is extremely beneficial. But put it this way, especially if you're a first player who has the ability to first last, or a second player that you want to try to get in a position to try to fork a first player, if you don't have a navigation command lined up, you can't outguess your opponent's ability to outguess you. I'm not sure if that's making any sense. So if you're second player, we'll put in this example. It's like kind of like a chessboard. If you have a pawn and a pawn running at each other, and those are the only pawns that can move forward each other, at some point they're just gonna meet. And in this case of chess, the pawns can't attack each other straight ahead. But what happens if you have 2 pawns and 1 pawn? If you throw the one pawn that's not very expensive forward to draw that other pawn more closer towards you, but into the attack range of the second pawn, then that pawn can kill that ship. Does that make sense? If you have a navigation command, instead of that pawn just going straight forward, now it suddenly just goes diagonal. And now it's not in the position that you had anticipated that it was going to be in for you to be able to kill. It's all about tempo and range control. That's why navigation is so extremely important, and that is one aspect of Star Wars Armada that frustrates a lot of new players, and why high-level play is not so much decided between the dice that are rolled. It's about who was able to initiate or not initiate on the terms that they have set. You don't want to engage your opponent on his terms, because you're going to get punished for it. You want the opponent to come into what is your your terms. You want him to make the hard choices. You don't want to make hard choices. If you're the one making hard choices about, oh man, if I go here, that thing's going to blow me up, or if I go here and that thing's going to blow me up, you're the one that's in the disadvantageous position, and you're the one who's going to be losing stuff, not the other player. Is that kind of, hopefully that makes more sense. So by having navigation commands dialed up, you can control your range control, especially if you have nav dial and token. You can change your range tempo in terms of movement so drastically, especially with the maneuver tool, but also in how you progress forward. And again, what a lot of new players will do is they'll just plop their ships down going straight ahead, and then they'll just go try to go straight right at their target. But what you see is what a lot of players will deploy, not exactly on the front line, go forward. They'll deploy like halfway back. You know what? I've got Vassal. Oh my gosh. Why don't I just fire up Vassal? Because this is streaming my screen. I'm so dumb. I can literally be showing you the example that I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and I'll just player one, just have access to some more of the stuff if I need it. Sure, Death Star. That's my favorite map. All right. You'll see the setup area here. Let's, for example, throw down one of the most common things on a table, a freaking Star Destroyer, right? What's a lot of things that you're going to see across from a table is, for example, some, where are they? Corvettes. Not so worried much about the card. I just want the ships. And in this example, let's say an MC-30. We'll get these guys flipped around. Takes a while. Vassal likes to chug just a little bit. Oh, great. I'm glad that's very valuable. Hopefully this example will demonstrate a little bit better as well. So let's say if these are CR-90A Corvettes. And however deployment happened, I don't know. We're just using this as an example. This is not like going to be the example. It's going to be perfect every single time. But again, it's just to illustrate what I'm trying to talk about. So for whatever reason, you're Empire and you only brought one Star Destroyer, and your opponent is a Rebel player and he has two CR-90A Corvettes and an MC-30. And my Vassal is chugging again. There we go. Perfect. So you plop down your Star Destroyer first, and let's say that you plopped him down as far forward as you could go, the distance 3, and you put him at speed 3. As first player, when you place your first ship, especially a big ship like this first, and say, I'm going speed 3, and you plop it, you are giving away so much information. And when you're a more experienced player, you can use that to your benefit. But when you're a new player and you do something like this, let's look at the maneuver tool. So we know that even if you dialed up a navigation dial, you can only slow your speed by 1. So we see here, we see speed 1, speed 2, speed 3, and speed 4. So we know that this Star Destroyer is going to be here at speed 3 if he stays at that speed, right? Or if he has a navigation dial queued up, he can slow here. When you're planning your movement in Star Wars Armada, you should not be planning your ship movements for one turn at a time, okay? Because if you do that, your opponent is going to outfly you every single time. You cannot fly in the moment. You have to have a plan for speed and positioning of where your ship is going, especially for the first 3 turns. As we all know, no plan survives contact with the enemy. You need to be able to compromise, but you definitely need to have an idea when you're facing multiple situations. So why is this a bad idea to go at speed 3 as fast as you can? Let's look at the range band of that CR-90. Okay, so at long range, if he's at the edge of his deployment zone, you can see right there that he's just shy of being able to shoot your Star Destroyer. So let's just say if you just went ahead, hurtling ahead at speed 3. 1, 2, and 3. If you didn't have a navigation command, for example, and you put yourself there. Sure, you can't be shot. No one is going to shoot you, but watch this. So this is where your front arc is, right? Well, if this CR90 has deployed at, for example, like speed 3 or speed 4, if he has a navigation command dialed up, not the right side that I want, he can just throw a thing here. Hold on, I can get this right. Not quite there. Where is it? What am I looking for? Say 1. Here we go. So if he's at speed 3, he just needs one click on his yaw. And he's going to do it on an inside turn like so. Okay, now watch this. Yeah, he's at red range, but even if this is an ISD2 at long range out the front for red die, you're not going to kill that CR90. It's not going to happen. Not unless you have something else to soften it up before you hit it. Now look at what the CR90 can do. Yeah, you're in a side arc, but for the next turn, he can slow down because he stayed at speed 3, right? You're still at speed 3, but the CR90 has a way better turning capability than your ship. And same thing with this guy. What happens is that your opponent will start making a kill box. And the idea is you don't want to throw all your stuff at the front of an ISD unless you're staying at a range where it cannot capitalize on being able to punish you for it. So again, a situation like this, where those corvettes can stay at speed 3, but be able to maneuver themselves into a position where they can control tempo. Or even if they deployed further backline, all they have to do is just slow down and then you move into them. Again, yeah, you're at red range, but again, like for example, this is giving him double arc on you. Or in the case of MC30s, MC30s, say if he had deployed him at speed 2, let's say he had navigation command lined up, he's going to slow him to speed 1. Okay, so now you're still traveling at speed 3, and sure, you may have shots on all these targets, but again, you're only throwing 4 red die. All these ships have evades and redirects. Your damage is not going to stick, especially in the case of ISD2s, which have a very difficult time of having reliable reroll capability of even being able to put out damage. Essentially, if you roll any blanks, you're not hardly putting any damage out. So let's say you do shoot at these 2 CR90s. Again, you're not going to have any damage to kill them. So now what happens if you stayed at speed 3? You can't get out by being first player. You see where disaster is striking. Now you're going to end up in close range of this MC30. You're probably still going to get double arced by this CR90. You're in the side shot of this CR90. Your ISD, which is a very powerful asset, can't get out and he can't go anywhere to escape. And what's also now happened is that you've moved your front arc, which is the most powerful thing that you have, past all of your targets. So let's go with this example right here. Maybe, you want to try to turn right, keep chasing that CR90. Maybe you smacked him real good. But again, without that navigation command to affect your first yaw, look at where you're at. Now all this CR90 has to do to get out of the danger zone and be a position to where it can still murder the crap out of you, and you really can't murder the crap out of it. Because again, if it's got TRCs, it can effectively hurt you in all of its arcs. Because it has that guaranteed ability to be able to throw damage out on you. So let's say that he slows the speed 2. Oops. 1 and 2. Now you can see there, just with a little bit of speed manipulation, he managed to stay. Yeah, he's in medium range, but that's still only 4 dice. And again, for a CR90, unless that Star Destroyer is equipped with XI turbo lasers, that still is not going to kill that CR90. Not going to happen. And it's still able to pour effective plink damage onto the Star Destroyer. And again, since it had to move first, now it's in close range of a double arc of this MC30. It's at close range. Again, still a side shot, but it's just all that damage together. You can see there why I hopefully this I've gone on a field long enough and trying to give that example of why navigation commands are so important. All right, so this is really informative. Out of 6 rounds on a dial for an ISD, how many would you have navigate? That's one of the things about with so many things that you play against, it all just drastically depends. But man, if you do not have a nav dialed up on your Star Destroyer, for my personal opinion, at least 1 to 2 out of your first 3 rounds, and almost always I have navigation dialed up on my Star Destroyer for all 3 first rounds. Because that Star Destroyer, again, all of his damage is frontwards. If you're not able to keep front on target, you're not throwing enough damage to be able to kill anything. It is more drastically important to keep front on target to shoot, to kill something, than it is to do any other command. Because if you kill your target, they can't shoot back. Engineering's not important. Engineering is great for, like, repairing a lot of small damage, like plink damage, like from a squadron here, squadron there. But when you're suffering concentrated firepower from 3 or 4 different ships focusing on you, engineering is not going to save you. You need the ability to be able to, again, navigate. Maybe you can move yourself in or out of an arc. Maybe you stay at an arc that's advantageous to you, but out of an arc that's advantageous for your enemy. Same thing with concentrate fire is the worst. Don't ever. I can only think of a time where I only ever have dialed up a concentrate fire once or twice, and that is with like fortresses lists where you're expecting to take a lot of punishment and you need, maybe that extra dial to ensure you're getting a kill on something that maybe is otherwise going to escape. Like if you need to kill something out a side or rear arc where it doesn't have the dice to be able to otherwise kill something, a concentrate fire can swing in your favor that way. But I mean, I hardly ever use concentrate fire. I think it's a not very good command, and it all just again depends on how your ship builds are made. Like for example, Archidans with like intel officers and TRCs combined with Vader, like those ships really love to throw concentrate fire, because with intel officer you target, like for example, if they have a single brace token, you target that one brace token, you want the like 4 die because it's the natural 3 from an Archidans plus 1 from the concentrate fire, so you're throwing 4 reds. You have reroll insurance from Vader. You want all 4 of those red die to come up damage, and then if you can TRC, even if there's a blank, you TRC 1 into a double, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage from 4 red dice, and with intel officer hitting that brace, like they pretty much just eat it. And that is a situation where concentrate fire can be helpful. It's the same thing you'll notice like with CR90s, is that if they're in a really good spot and they don't need to navigate, they're gonna concentrate fire because their nav charts are so good, they pretty much can turn to track and keep up with almost anything they want to chase or shoot at, where they can alternate between navving or concentrate fire or pure concentrate fire, depending. Or in the case of, with one of those CR90s, yeah, that ISD might be barreling towards it to go kill it, but sometimes, you want to give up a CR90 if that's going to ensure you're annihilating the ISD, so you just dial them up with concentrate fire commands and, have him throw as much extra damage as he can before he explodes. I mean, these are all like just different situations. But now, hopefully that explains like for why navigation command is so valued. And to kind of back this up, for example, so if you deployed at speed 3 doing something like that, as I mentioned, you give away so much information compared to if you had just done something like this. And this is one of the things I love to do, and it's something that a lot of veteran players like to do. Is if you have to deploy, if you have to, you don't always, it all just depends on your strategy and what you're doing. You deploy your ISD at speed 2. Why speed 2? You give away no information, hardly any information. Because again, if you deploy, for example, at speed 1, it means I'm going slow. If I use a speed dial, I can only get to speed 2. If I token it, I'm staying at speed 1. Again, you're giving away information about what it is you're trying to do. Again, the next turn, you could, if you did tokenize a nav dial, you could jump from speed 1 to speed 3, of course. But by doing this, you're also, again, giving your opponent information in terms of how does he conduct his movement and his range control. There's a reason why you'll see a lot of players deploy at speed 2, because I can use that speed dial to speed up or speed down. I'm not giving away information about what I am planning to do with that ship. And a lot of players, even if they want to go slow, they'll stay at speed 2 to tokenize it, because again, something like an ISD, don't just do the trundle ahead at whatever that speed is. If you see here, even by doing its natural yaw click 1 and 1, like this, someone make a copy of this ship here, and you'll see. So if I do like a 1 and 1 like this, you'll see my ISD ends up just only a little bit past that line, compared to if I straighten that tool and I move it ahead at speed 2. And you might think, boy, that little distance doesn't seem like it changes that much. Well, depending on how these CR90s move, that little distance might mean they may end up in range of you to hit your ship, or it might keep them just barely out. Same thing for when you then have to move into your enemy. It's the little things, because you never want to be the first player to activate, not be able to shoot anything, and then move into a bunch of ships that are then just going to blast the crap out of you. Again, it's all about that control. Trying to have that control. You want to force your opponent to make bad choices when moving towards you. Again, not vice versa. Another thing about for example, if you were at speed 2, delete this guy. If you were at speed 2, if you had that navigation command, but you still want to stay at speed 2, you don't want to drop to speed 1, you can still use that dial, and you can do something like this. 2 clicks on 1, 1 click on 2. This is one of the most things I love doing, because you can even see here, that drops you even further back, but guess what? Your front is still perfectly aligned towards those other targets. Because even if, for example, this CR90 wants to come in and try to shoot at your side or butt, if on the next turn, you can always do a double like that. You can slow to speed 1, and then guess what? Now your front, again, your front is now facing towards that target. So it just, again, it all comes down to using that maneuver tool that you have. Absolutely is, you just can't just go forward straight ahead and not put any thought or effort to it. You have to plan not only for where you're going to be that first turn, but your second turn, and you have to try to anticipate, depending on what your opponent's fleet is he going to slow up or speed down? So that you can try to do the best you can to either catch him moving into you, or you put your ship into a place where, yeah, you may take a shot or two, but then you're in such a position that you're going to wipe out the opposition, because you're in your most advantageous position to conduct your attack, especially as first player. So that's why you will probably have seen a lot of people love to try to run a lot of activations and then bid, like 10, 15, 20 points for first, because they want that first last activation where they can see where their opponent has gone, move their heavy hitter to where they want it to be, and then activate first the following turn and then smash. Again, this is why 2-ship was so successful, is because of Price and Thrawn giving squad and navigation commands. With Price on the ISD was my preference. Some people put it on the Quasar. You do it on a turn that's most valuable, and that's almost always typically like turn 2. Not always, it just depends. You then move last. You threw all your squadrons. You shot potentially or hopefully something that came in the range, and then you move, put yourself right on the nose of the target you're wanting to kill. Top of turn 3, you would throw more squads. You'd blast away for your Star Destroyer. And between the 2 turns of essentially uninterrupted activation, you would almost always kill whatever you had in front of your ISD. And then you just run away with your ISD. You don't try to. I mean, in some cases you could turn around and try to re-engage, but that almost always wasn't to your benefit. Like you've got what you want, you've gotten the win. Now you just need to sail off before other stuff can pick apart your plan. Anyway, I think I've talked long enough on that. I think I've iterated my point. When you say you're using a dial, it doesn't matter which command, you can say, okay, so when you reveal a command dial, you immediately have to say, a lot of people miss this part. You have to say if you plan to use that dial or if you're going to turn it into a token. A lot of people will go to through most of their steps and then get to the point of oh, I actually don't need to use this dial. I'm going to turn it into a token. That's illegal. They have to declare as soon as they show their dial if they plan to use the dial or turn it into a token. Now, even if they use the dial or later on spend the token, just because they spend it to use it doesn't mean they have to do anything with it. You can just say I've executed this command, but I'm actually not going to change speed. I'm not going to use the nav click. I'm not doing anything special with it. Why is this important? Look at cards like Engine Tex or Quantum Storm. Both of these require that you have spent or executed a navigational command before that card can be exhausted and used. Meaning you needed to have spent a dial or a token or dial and token together to have executed that command, to then being able to later say, okay, now I'm triggering the effects of Engine Tex. So in the case of, for example, like Demolisher or Gladiator, say his command dial that he revealed was a re-engineering command, but he has a navigation token on his ship, and he has Engine Tech. So when you get to the maneuver course step, during the maneuver course step, before you actually move Demolisher, you need to say, I'm spending this navigation token, but I'm not changing my speed at all. Why is that? You then move Demolisher, you make your attack with Demolisher. Then if you want to Engine Text, again, you've spent that token, you've executed the command, now you can exhaust Engine Text, and then you can use Engine Text to initiate that second movement, or any ship that can take that card. So that's an example for that. So no, you don't have to do anything with a dial. You just need to make sure you're declaring that you have used the dial or what have you, etc. Hopefully that answers your question with that. All right. I don't know. Let's see here. Oh, live chat. There we go. Just switch it to that. I don't know why it has a top chat function. Hopefully that answers your question there. Let me check the Discord. I haven't looked there in a while. Let's see here. Oh, he's talking to someone else. Let's see here. SWAE gonna explain the rules of cricket live on stream though. Let's see here. Well, he was there, but apparently his internet choked on streaming. Yeah, streaming does require a lot of data. 60. See Dreas. Yeah, I would like to see some of these older forum posters that kind of have dropped off come back more. But like with anything, you flow in and out of games and in things that you're in. I mean, I used to be like really into airsoft, and now I only just go to my local field. I don't go into like any of the big stuff I used to go to just because it's time and expense and yada yada. Welcome Ice Beaker 2007 to the Star Wars Armada stream. Go check out. Make sure there's no other posts or anything else going up. What are the questions you guys have? Anything else about Star Wars Armada? About myself in general? I don't know who all is in the chat. It doesn't show me how many people. Oh, here we go. Participants. No, I'm the participant. Okay, that's not helpful. It doesn't show me who all is here. Well, I guess it doesn't really ever show you who all is in the thing. Maybe you'll show me how many people are watching. I don't even know how many people are watching right now. Doot 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 doot. Buttons. Yeah, guys, I'm such a YouTube personality. I know everything. There we go. Buttons. Four. Yeah, there we go. I'm such a YouTube. There we go. Get rid of the echoing. No echoing. Okay. Let's see here. So I live on the West Coast. I live in Oregon. 60 is asking me this question on Discord. So Oregon, and I used to go to a really big event called Milsom West in Washington, and it's fun in some aspects that airsofting is fun, but there's a lot of things about that event that I didn't enjoy or agree with, and that the event coordinators for that have no interest in trying to change. And that largely is when I go to play airsoft, I want to shoot my rifle, I want to run around, I want to be engaged, I want to have fun. And Milsom West, they definitely play more on the actual military experience of standing around and doing fuck all. Hey guys, we're gonna put you here, and you're gonna sit here for 14 hours and not do shit. It's like, oh, it's like I paid $300 to be here, and this is all I did for 14 hours in one part of it. So it's just kind of like I kind of gave up. Kind of gave up on that kind of stuff. So I just mainly go to my local field where I spend $20 and I run around for 5 hours, and I'm consistently shooting my gun for 5 hours, and then I can go home and sleep in a bed because the Milsom West event is a continuous 40 hour something event. I mean, you have to keep your goggles on the whole time, and weapons at the ready, and you can be attacked at the nighttime. You get like little to no fucking sleep. You're sleeping on rocks. I mean, like I said, I went for those kind of experiences because I wanted to experience it, and it's fun. Like I said, it's fun in that aspect because last year I was a platoon commander, and that was so much fun. I had 30 something men and women underneath my command. We had a blast. We had so much fun when we were allowed to have fun. Uh, Oftentimes, like I said, it was pretty much like, okay, guys, go and sit here, and then we'd sit there for 14 hours. Like, hey, we want to do stuff. We want to do stuff. We're like, no, 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 you can't do stuff right now. You need to rest. It's like we've been here for 14 hours. Like, how much more rest do you want us to do? And and you have to set up watches and all that stuff. It's just boring. It's like they didn't have like objectives you could go like take or do, and the only people who were actually having any fun were the special forces groups that were largely made up of ex-military or current military persons. They were the ones all off running around and shooting each other's nonstop. All of us other people who were fucking stuck doing nothing were not having any fun. It's just, and I'm not saying that is, there's some people who go to that experience and they like that experience, and that's the experience they're looking for. That's not, I went for 2 years in a row, and that's just not the experience I was looking for. I just wanted more interaction. I mean, we all spent all this money and stuff on gear. I'm on NATO's side looking like NATO. The Russians are on their side looking like Russians. By the way, it's like, man, I should have picked up with the Russians because they have way more fun. The Russians have way more fun than the NATO side. Absolutely, like not even a contest. The Russians had like way more fun than we did. And what's funny is that like I got chosen as platoon commander largely because nobody else wanted to do it, and like I had thrown my interest out there because I do a lot of milsim stuff. Also, I used to play a ton of Arma 3. Like I was in a USMC milsim group for Arma 3 for 5-6 years, and I did work my way up from just being a normal grunt to platoon commander, company commander. I was even in charge of like creating and designing operations. And so like I was trained by people who were actually either ex or current United States Marine officers. One of them was a captain for an MP platoon. That guy was fantastic. Rittenhouse, he was amazing. He taught me so much about Army tactics and squad organization and how to advance and flank and maneuver. And so I was like actually using that at Milsom West, and I'd have these military guys come up to me because I'd be spouting off the acronyms. And they're like, "Where'd you learn all this stuff? You know, what was your company?" I'm like, "I just learned it from friends who do this stuff. Like, I didn't tell them I learned it on an online video game. That just make them think worse of me." Um, but let's see here. 60 sounds like real military life. Same. Arma 3 rocked. Yeah, yeah. Arma 3 was fantastic. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, like I said, I learned a lot from people who were actually in the military, and so yeah, it was just funny when I'd be out there maneuvering my platoon like a platoon, and then I'd get back and I'd still have these guys just talking shit to me. It's just it's very much a boys' club. Anyway, I think I've said enough about that. Let's check back to the YouTube chat. What does it say here? I always tend to equip my ships with extra guns or things that provide dice mitigation and rarely run actual officers or crew. Am I doing it wrong? Um, yes and no. Depends on what ship and what your tactics are. So, for if you're bringing an ISD and if you do not have an officer in your officer slot, you're not using that ISD as effectively as you can. As any large base ship, if you're bringing a large base ship, you're already spending so many points, and there's so many good officers out there. Let's take a look at some of them. Let's go take a look at some officers. That's the fact. We don't want that. Here we go. Let's go back to Ryan Kingston's. I mainly play Imperials, but we'll go over both Rebels and Imperials. So, like, for example, if you wanted to bring an ISD, which most ISDs, ISD 2, let's look at some great options for this ship. Captain Burnson, for 5 points, she's pretty much stapled to every single Imperial list for a reason. She's freaking amazing. I mean, I know there's some newer players that look at her restriction of, oh, I need to be at distance 1 to 2 of an obstacle. That doesn't seem so good. Like, that's not, if you don't take her for that reason, you're not understanding the mechanics of Armada, especially with her ability. You can cancel one attack die. Why is this huge? Well, she likes to get taken a lot on gladiators because they're close range ships, or even taken a lot like if you need to bump up the survivability of a ship, like a raider, like especially the Quasar. There's a reason why you see her stapled to Quasar Fires, is because they only have 2 defense tokens. They need all the help they can get to increase their survivability. I've had a Quasar Fire survive a front shot medium range from an ISD-2 before, only because that opponent didn't roll any accuracies. He rolled 8 damage, so I was able to Brunson, redirect, embrace. I took that damage from 8 damage to 4. Brunson went away to 3 damage. Okay, so I took 8 damage, turned it into 3 damage with her. Okay, so that's 2 shields off a side and 1 shield off the front, and I'm completely fine. That's why she's so good. Same deal with if a ship that relies on black critical hit crits to activate, like APTs or concussion missile launchers, ACMs. If you are now forcing him to aggressively re-roll to get 2 black hit crit die. Because if he only gets 1, guess what she does? She nerks it, and they get nothing. And in most situations, you usually are not able to get the double arc to where you can then, okay, well, I didn't get it on this one, I can get it on the next attack, even if she canceled the one. Or if the die just really hate you, you could roll one side arc, not get the hit crit that you want, and then you do your next attack, you get the hit crit, but again, she cancels it. Like, she saves you such an exponential amounts of damage. She's pretty much a no brainer. I'll take her on ISDs. I mean, if I got points, I'll fit her on anything. If I don't have another officer I need lined up for it. You probably will see more Darth Vader. He's 1 point. So many flotillas are running around with empty officer sleeves because flotillas don't need officers to be efficient. For 1 point, you can throw Darth Vader on there, and as long as you're throwing some like super cheap officers on other ships that you can then reroll with, like Admiral Titus, you'll probably see more of the new Admiral Ozzel card. So those are things that you can then, if you need a guaranteed reroll, you can still get. Palpatine, I still don't know as an officer. I still don't know where he's gonna go. You could probably see him on maybe the Avenger ISD, in larger point games. I don't quite know where he's gonna fit in at 400 points. And of course, Price. I mean, we've talked Price to death. I haven't done her actual SWAE card yet, just because it's just a lot, and I'm just trying to catch up on some of the other cards and other things too. And also is because I don't want to do her card and then FFG releases an FAQ and then drastically changes her, and then I have to redo the video. So I've been holding off on doing the late wave release cards because they're gonna have to release a FAQ on her, on Bale, on the SSD. Like, they're gonna have to release updated information. So it's like, I just don't want to do her card, which will probably take me at least 20 to 30 minutes of explanation, on top of research, video, other stuff I have to do on top of that anyway. And then they FAQ her, and then I have to redo the whole freaking thing. So that's why I've been holding off on cards like hers for that reason. But again, she's fantastic because she allows your large ship, or medium ship, allows your ship to go last. So especially for Empire, where they're almost always out activated if you're bringing large ships, I mean, you bring her, she's your commander, and then whoever your other commander is just along for the ride. Wolf has kind of fallen by the wayside. He's kind of been replaced by Taskmaster Grant in some cases. He still has uses. Hondo Anaka for 2 points is, you just can't go wrong. It's like, I know people don't like giving tokens to their enemies, but man, in the right place and the right time, I've seen Hondo Anaka just completely flip games around because of the fact that he can just immediately give you tokens that you can spend on the ship that needs it. Of course, Strategic Advisor, along with Price and Bale, has kind of just been messing things up in the game, depending. Flight Commander is a good card. Intel Officer is a good card, depending on what you're looking to have accomplished. And then, honestly, Skilled First Officer is amazing. He's an amazing card. He's Slicer Tool Insurance. He's just fantastic. If you got a spare point, unless you're trying to bid to go first, there's no reason to not ever take Skilled First Officer. I've also gotten into the vein of taking veteran captains on my flotillas. Why is that? If I'm not running Thrawn, these guys are great because I can queue up a navigation command if I need to on that flotilla, and then when I reveal that command, veteran captain, if I still need to like commsnet a token to someone, I can then discard him, put the token I still want in the commsnet, shuttle that over to the ship, and then that flotilla can still navigate out of danger. Sometimes people will put your flotillas in boxes where they want to kill them because they can. Maybe they got put into a bad spot, or maybe they're just going to get rammed to death. That's a great situation. You pop them out, you still shuttle the token off to where it needs to go, and then you use your nav command and you pop away. That's experience for Imperials, for example, of some officers. Let's take a look at some Rebel cards. Rebels have fantastic officer selection. If you're a Rebel player and you're not throwing your Rebel officers on your ships, That's a huge mistake. If you bring squadrons, I mean, for 10 points just out of your fleet composition, Adar Talon is just one of the most amazing cards for squadrons. To be able to have a squadron activate twice and shoot and move and pop Imperials or other rebels in the face is just vastly understood. Ahsoka is amazing. She is pretty much just your pocket change any command token of any type, whatever you want, whenever you need. She's great with the Pelta, being able to change the fleet command to whatever you want or any token you want. Of course, Bale is still good. Bale is not as heavily used as Price, obviously for the reason of you have the guaranteed last, and then if you're first player with the first Price, Bale, a lot of people want to play second because for a second player, there really is only the one turn where it matters that they go first, and Bale gives them to that. And even if they are first player, they still get tokens. Like tokens, don't undervalue tokens. Tokens are amazing. Tokens allow you to do so much. Lando is amazing. 4 points. Sure, take that huge giant attack pool you just rolled all this awesome damage, and then you just make them roll it all away. I cannot understate how many times this card has thwarted me from absolutely killing ships. Or even if the ship is at full health and I roll this big bonkers attack, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm going to deal some damage. My opponent will be like, nope, re-roll all of that. And then I re-roll into crap damage and I don't do anything. I cannot count how many times this has frustrated me when fighting MC30s with Abnemission with Lando on it. I don't hardly, unless that's the only thing I can shoot at, I don't even shoot at him anymore because you just can't kill him. I mean, there definitely are the cases where you'll Lando a super awesome roll back into a super awesome roll or better roll, but more times than not, you're gonna get good results with Lando. Ramus is an excellent card. Torin Farr is just, if you're bringing heavy squads and you don't have her in your list, I mean, it's a guaranteed reroll for all of your ships, all of your squadrons that are in range. It's easy to keep her in range. There's no reason not to have her. Again, Hondo, Strategic Advisor, we've already covered. Skill First Officer, we've already covered. But yeah, I mean, there's just good officers for both sides. And not to say that the other officers I haven't touched on aren't good, but they require more specific niches that I don't, it would take a long time to try to cover or go over. So I won't. Let's see here, look back at the chat window. So I'm not sure if that was enough explanation for you. He said thanks. Not sure if he responds to R. Kelson or not. I hope, Bill, that answered some of your question. Just pretty much officers can give you more value to your ships depending on the role that ship is going to be playing for Imperial or Rebel. And there definitely are some situations where you don't need to run officers. Like flotillas, for the most part, they don't need officers to be good. CR90s don't, most small ships don't need officers to be good. But once you get into like medium ships and large ships where that is like the bulk of your points, that's where you want your officer cards to try to have more impact of that ship. R. Kelson, did you try Outer Rim yet? If so, did you like it? I did try Outer Rim. I played the demo at Adepticon. I live streamed that. I had a lot of fun with it, but of course that was just only a small chunk of demo. If you watch Krabik's videos about his play experience with it, I can see why he gave the explanations he did about his concerns with that game. It is a very fun game. It is a Star Wars game at its core. It is a lot of fun. That said, there are issues with it. That being one of it being that once a character kind of starts snowballing, you don't really have an ability to slow that character snowball down. You do to some degree, but not as much as some players would prefer. But this game is also, it has expansions coming for it. I mean, look at Rebellion. When it was first released, it had issues. It was still a great game, but it still had issues. And then the expansion for that game fixed, I mean, pretty much all of them. It's a fantastic, wonderful game to play. I see the same thing with Outer Rim. I can guarantee you that they have expansions in the works for that game. Oh, I got a call coming in from my brother. One second, one second. What's up, brother? What's up? No. Sure. Well, right. No, no, no. Several more experiences on you. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. All right. I'll just say I saw it in the store and I liked it. Okay, fine. Fine. It's okay. Okay, I'll say. Love you, bro. Bye. Ugh, sorry about that. That was my twin brother. He's very nervous to have me meet his new girlfriend, not girlfriend. I don't know what the relationship status is yet. Anyway, back to Outer Rim. So I feel Outer Rim will have expansions coming out that will address some of those concerns. I would love to see more player versus player interactions. Uh, to give an example of Outer Rim, like one of the examples I had is that I was playing Han Solo, and I feel like I did like a very Han Solo thing where this guy had just gotten a mission where he needs to take cargo to hut controlled space, and I also had cargo that had to go to hut control space. But then he had a mission that was also taking him in the opposite direction, and so I said, "Hey, I'm Han Solo. I don't like the huts. I have to deliver this cargo past hut space. Why don't I give this to you, and you give me that mission that goes in the other direction, and we're both going to make a profit?" And so, to me, that was a very Han Solo thing. Just to chuck my cargo at him, he takes it, and I just take his mission. The person would be like, "What? Who the hell are you?" It's like, "Oh, I'm Han Solo. I got this mission from my friend." It's just, I don't know. It just seems like a very Star Wars experience to me, and I think that it will be a fantastic game. I definitely had a lot of fun doing the demo. Um, can you use Vader's command card to reroll some of the dice at your pool, and the guy Lando you into a bad roll, and then do Vader again and reroll those die? Also, that big old can of booze in the background, that old school dark milk can. Oh, that's not a milk can. It's a 64-ounce glass jug. A growler. That's a growler. So yes, you can put booze into it, but no, there's no. I just got back from camping. At one point, it did have booze in it. There's no booze in it now. Um, So you're talking about the attack step. When does the attack step, when things can happen in it? So excuse me. When you're the attacker and you're doing your attack step in the modify die step, that's when you do all of your effects as the attacker, whether that be adding die to the pool. That's when you're re-rolling any die. That's when you're exhausting any cards that could otherwise affect die or your opponent, etc. Once you, as an attacker, declare, I am done with modifying my die, I am done with my part of the attack step, and you give that phase now over to the defender, you go into the spend defense token step. You, as the attacker, there's nothing else you can do, as far as I'm aware right now in the game, that allows you to re-affect your die again. So, meaning when you've passed it off into the spend defense token step, you've given the turn to the defender. When he landos and forces you to reroll all your die, that's the chips that are dealt. Same thing with targeting scramblers. So no, once the attacker is done, it's the defender's turn. If he makes you reroll any die, however those things land, they land. That's it. You as the attacker cannot affect or modify those die again. So no, you couldn't do Vader. That player then does Lando. In his phase, then you can't say, whoa, back up, I want a Vader again, etc. Also, you can only use Vader's ability, the Vader Commander, once anyway. So if you had Vader the first time, even if that had been allowed, you couldn't anyway, because you can only resolve a card's effect once in each attack. Or in that situation, if you hadn't used Vader, he used Lando again, you're past that step where you could have used Vader. You can't re-roll anything. Hopefully that makes sense. Gotcha. All right. Oh man, I can't believe we've already been going for an hour already. Let me think. I got a little bit more time I can spend. I know I've spent most of it talking about, I don't know, it just seems like stuff that is pretty well known, nothing too crazy or anything else. I think I sucked up a lot of time going over that navigation example. But hey, that's the question. That's what people want to know. That's what the people want to know. I hope to have more of these in the future too. Like with all things, it just all kind of depends on interest. And I like doing it. I like doing the SWAE drives thing. Was a pretty popular hit, and for me, it just allows me to talk. And all I'm doing is driving a road I've already driven hundreds of times. When traveling to tournaments and things. So I'm just bored and I'm just trying to help fill the downtime. Let's see here. You're very good and informative. Thanks for the live stream and the great advice. I wouldn't say it's really that well known for new players. Yeah, Armada, when I first started, I can absolutely agree with that. There's so much nuance in the game, it takes a long time to pick that all up. And I have seen it where some newer players will come into the game, they get trounced 2 or 3 times, they don't understand why they're losing, and then they leave the game. They don't come back. Um, and part of that is, they're not asking questions. They're not asking, how did I get beat? Or even when you explain that to them, they don't like the answer. Part of it is, it's just not the right game for them. But part of it too is that some of the veteran players will just beat them and then not tell them how they lost. Or they won't encourage them to ask questions. Now, there definitely is a time and place for it. If you're playing a casual game, you should always do an AAR or after action report. It doesn't matter if you're new players, experienced players, any skill level, always do an AAR with your opponent, because you get to really read into their mindset and like what your mindset is, and that's how you start to figure out things like the tempo, like the navigation, stuff like that, and range control. About why your opponent did certain things at certain times, because you'll often find, especially as a new player, like, well, how did you how do you know I was going to do this? It's like, well, I made an educated guess based on all my past experience. And so then when he kind of reveals a little bit of that trick up his sleeve of like, when you did this, I've seen this before, and so I knew how to approach and handle what you were trying to do. And this is how I counteracted that. And then this is where you really, I mean, you can see this at top table of this year's Worlds. You can see that. And a lot of players don't recognize what's going on. A lot of veteran players do, though. All those careful, slow calculations, the long deliberations, it's not just because they don't know what to do. They're trying to understand that if they do something, how is their opponent going to react to that? And in this case, they're trying to outguess the guess of the guess. If he moves his one squadron here, and do I bring up this squadron or this squadron to try to kill that guy? What are the odds of that? They're calculating. It's so much calculation. Because don't spend 4 squadrons to kill one target when 3 squadrons will do. Don't throw 3 ships at one target to kill that ship if one ship can do it. It's stuff like that. It's so much just understanding the nature and course of the game. And when you see Dennis and Nathan playing, you will see that Dennis had a really difficult time deciding on what he should try to go after, and ultimately he tried to win the squadron war, which you can't do of Salome. But he was trying to buy time for his MC-30 and his other ships to either pin and trap Center Core or pin and trap the Quasar Fire. He was trying to do both. It didn't work out for him. But he was trying to pin and trap, and essentially he gave away his squadron ball. And again, not trying to give that information away to his opponent, but he tried to buy time for his MC-30 to get in a position to where he could kill ships and make up the point loss from his squadron loss. But that, again, you're not trying to just immediately give that information away. That's why you saw the careful ship movement, the careful calculations with the squads. Because if Dennis, for example, had rolled poorly and not had rolled well at all, then he needs to try to capitalize that with his squadrons and with his ships. He needs to be able to change that. And so when you're doing these movements and such, you always need to have the plan of, this is what is going to happen if things are going to go well, and this is my plan that will happen if things don't go well in the course of that. Like I said, watch Worlds. You can really, I mean, it's just difficult, but that's just some of the nuances you'll see, is that they're trying to plan out everything that potentially could happen with each and every movement. That's why they're top players, is because they were able to out manipulate their opponents or outguess their opponents. I mean, if you listen to my interview with Dennis, he pretty much explained, like, yeah, my goal wasn't to try to table an opponent. He just wanted the consistent 8 points, the consistent 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 9 in most cases is what he got. I don't think he ever got below that, not off the top of my head. And that throws a lot of people, because kind of the mindset and meta set right now is, you want the 10-1s, you want the big wins, you want the 9-2s and the 10-1s. Not a lot of people thought about consistent winning. 8 points is still extremely good. So he was able to outplay the meta by introducing an aspect of something that is really good. Excuse me, I'm hiccuping. I can't stop. That's why Dennis is listed really well, was because he didn't take what was considered good. He took what was good against what was considered good. And since the players who hadn't seen his list before didn't quite know how to approach it, again, he was able to manipulate his opponent into making poor choices, even when they thought they were making good choices. It's like, man, I just really wish I could have live streamed. I just wanted just to sit and watch Dennis's games. Like, I wish they'd been recorded because I just wanted to be able to see that. Because just watching the final between Nathan and Dennis was just mind blowing. And I just wish I could have seen all that interaction throughout the course of the whole tournament. Dennis is just a good player. I mean, the guy just dominates. Not knocking Nathan Coda. Nathan Coda is also an extremely good player. And also, just they both brought lists that were not quite seen before, just different. And as I mentioned before, they outplayed what was considered good by bringing stuff that was still good, but good against what was good. I think that's enough on that. What are 10-1s when we're talking about there? I'm talking about tournament points. So tournament points, in official tournaments, you have a scoring system. And in the scoring system, let me bring that up here. This one? No, wrong one. How do I not have a tournament? Well, that doesn't matter. Just go to the website, download it. I guess I don't actually have a tournament regulations downloaded onto my computer. Tournament resources, tournament regulations. Here we are. Roll down with this. Here we are. This is what we're looking for. So tournaments, when you are playing and beating your opponent, it's not so much the fact that you beat them, it's by how much did you beat them. You'll see there that tournaments are calculated by a margin of victory. Just because you win, if it was pretty much almost a mutual destruction, how much of a victory was that really? Sure, you won the battle, but you lost all your ships in the process, for example. So the 10-1 means you pretty much dominated your opponent. You didn't lose anything, or if you did, you lost very little. So that's why 10-1s are so important in the tournament structure, because most tournaments are only 3 rounds. If you want to be the winner, you need the 9-point, you need the 10-point victories. You need to bring what's going to give you the greatest chance of victory to get, number 1. What's a perfect example of this? Just because you have 3 wins at 6-5, what is that? That's 18, right? I can't math right now. Yeah, 18 points. So let's put it this way. If it's a 3-round tournament, the most points you can earn is 30, and the least amount of points you can earn is 0. Or 3 points, excuse me. The least amount of points you can earn is 3. The most you can earn is 30. Wherein if you win every single game at 6-5, you're walking with 18 points. So slightly above the middle of the pack. But if you win 2 10-1s, 10-10 puts you at 20. And then even if you lose a game and you only get 5, you're at 25 points. You're at 25 points out of the maximum 30 you could have gotten. And that's from winning 2 games big and essentially getting a tie. 6 5s and 7 4s, for all intents and purposes, those are ties. Obviously, you prefer the 6-4 over a 6-5. But those aren't really going to drastically move you up or down the tournament structure. It's the 8s, 9s, and 10s that are going to accomplish that for you. So essentially, as long as you get the 1 big win or 2 big wins in a 3-round tournament, as long as you keep yourself to a tie for your 3rd game, playing who is probably going to be also a very good player, you're going to win that tournament. And that was, again, the strategy of Dennis. His goal wasn't to completely blow his opponents out of the water, because in order for him to accomplish something like that, he would have had to risk more. And the more you risk, the more you can lose. That's why his fleet was broken up into three aspects. So you had all of his squadrons and squadron points. 134 out of the 400 is Quasar Fire and his center core. So he had his points divided between those three, and you can even say the fourth one was his lifeboat raider with Salone on it, and his two Gazanis. That's the fourth aspect. So as an opponent, when you're trying to break down and analyze what's going to give you the most points to get a big win, he's compartmentalized his points in the 4 slices. 4 slices. It is very difficult for an opponent to get at 4 different slices of pie, right? If you've got 4 slices of pie, you can only eat one at a time. Except our games and structures is centered around 6 rounds. So if I can only eat 2 slices of pie in 6 rounds, okay, I'm only getting 200 points out of 400. Whereas if I am doing a point fortress list like how 2-ship is, I have essentially 2 slices of pie. I have my ISD and I have my Quasar Fire and Squadrons. You kill one of those slices of pie in that game, that's 200 points on one slice of pie by itself. Then, if you can get more of the other slice of pie, that's only going to increase your odds of victory. If you look on here, if you get at least 200 points, that's an 8-3. If you manage to snag 20 more points to get to 220, that's a 9-2. That's huge. And another thing about compartmentalizing your slices of pie into these different segments, because even if they chew one slice of pie and you're left with the other 3, if you can, so that's 100 points, we'll say, if you can chew off their slice of pie that's only 2 parts, that's 200 points gone. So now it's a 100 point victory in your favor. And then if you can chew into the other portion, you can see there you only need 40 more points to get to an 8-3. That's what Dennis was doing. He was only losing one part of his 4-part pie, and he was eating half or more of the other person's pie. That makes sense. It's like, I'll drink your milkshake. I'll drink it up. It's that's kind of the philosophy here is, and it's not to say that any one of those approaches is more wrong or right than the other. It's just you have to understand if you go big or go home, you have to go big or go home. And if you compartmentalize like how Dennis did, if you don't get all the wins that you need, Dennis easily could have been knocked out of finals. He was almost knocked out of final, not from losing, but because, excuse me, 2 players below the table below him kneecapped each other into a tie. If one of them had won big, they would have leapfrogged over Dennis, and they would have been in the finals, and not Dennis. So hopefully that explains some part of like tournament points, etc. With that aspect. Hopefully that answers your question, 60. Yeah, I've been going for almost an hour and a half. I think that's a good lengthy amount of time. So hopefully this was informative. I hope some new players learned some things from this. Learn more things about my personal life and come stalk me down. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to head out to meet my brother and his girl and have dinner with my parents. And otherwise, when I come back tonight, I'll put a few more I'll record a few videos, put those on a schedule, so that those will get thrown up tomorrow while I'm at work. Yeah, you guys have been fantastic. Thanks for the questions, you guys. I look forward to doing more stuff like this. And as always, if you have any requests, leave them in the comments. And if you feel like I got anything wrong, let me know. But I will catch you guys next time. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. How do I push that button? There we go. See you all.